Hello, Guerreras and Guerreros. This is Alex
and Laura.
And today I want to shout out Hello Studios here in Dallas, Texas. They have been so sweet and so generous in letting us shoot our podcast, our last podcast in person before Laura goes to Japan.
That's right.
So as you all know, she is leaving tomorrow. So they were so sweet, so kind. I love the customer service. Highly recommend. So I hope that you all check them out. And I hope you all love all the content that they're providing for us. So with that being said, let's get this show on the road.
So today we are actually going to be answering a lot of the questions that you submitted through the Instagram account. So thank you all so much for reaching out to us either individually or through the Instagram of Driven Latinas. So we have some very fun questions that we've seen have been pouring in. So we're going to be addressing them today. And as you can see, today is an even special day because we are also recording our faces and we are in a studio. So it's super fun and exciting for us. We feel extra special, as Alice said, with being with Hello Studio. So thank them so much for providing the space for us. And now we can go ahead and get started with the first question. And I'm just going to throw it out there. We can go in order if you want, or we can just do them spread out. But the very first one that I thought was a very great question that came from our listener, he said, what gave you the idea to start a podcast?
I love that question. So we took a Disney trip to Florida a year ago, and that sparked, it was all you guys. We had a lot of people reaching out and saying, hey, let me know all the details. How did you all plan this out? I've been wanting to take my kids. I've been wanting to take my family. So that really sparked the idea, honestly. Yeah. We were like, hey, why don't we just share this with so many people through a podcast? And
yeah, that's right. And
it started.
I will say, it was kind of like we joked around about it a lot. I don't know if you remember, but we were in Disney and we, again, getting flooded by friends and family asking questions about how did you make the Disney trip possible? We heard it's super expensive. Is that true? And there was a lot of things that we heard that we were like, why does it seem so hard for other people to do? And all these questions that are coming,
and misconceptions too.
Misconceptions, yeah.
So
we were like, no, we
up.
had to address it. And we would joke around, initially, I remember us joking around about it, in Disney in Florida and saying, we're going to do a podcast and we're going to tell everyone how we did it and we're going to clear up a lot of the misconceptions and a lot of these, impossibles. We're going to make it possible for people. And we joked about it a lot. And I don't know if you remember, but you actually showed up at my house and you're like, we're going to record the episode for Disney so we can tell people how to make their dream possible. And I was just like, oh, okay, it's a real thing. We're going to record it. And we did. We had our very first, and it's funny because it's our second episode, our Disney episode's our second episode, but it was actually the first one that we recorded. And you brought everything that we needed. We took notes and then we just recorded and we had so much to say. So I know I've heard from a lot of listeners that you guys love that episode. Some of you have shared that is the favorite episode that we've done just because it was so heavy on information and tips and tricks. And you've been able to make your Disney trips a reality. So that's exciting.
I know. I actually did it. Thanks for all the tips. And so one of the big things that I remember from Disney was they wanted all the links. So all the links that we used, to purchase our Amazon or from Amazon or the raincoats, all of that we provided to them. So they thanked us so much for that.
Yeah. And like I said, that was the first episode. But then the question was what gave you the idea to start the podcast. So that is what gave us the idea, our trip to Disney, all of the questions that were flooding in and us wanting to share that knowledge. But then I want to say what took it to the next level of us really putting thought and paper in order and a strategy behind it was actually our brother, Ben, our content creator. When he created the logo that's right behind us, he's a graphic designer. He had all of these questions for us in our brand. And that was hard because when we did the Disney episode, it was just a fun thing. We're just going to do a Disney episode and
Let me add.
Let's post it. And then our brother, and we went to our brother and we said, okay, Ben, so we want to post this episode, but we want you to make us a logo. And so with that logo came all these questions of like, well, what is your brand? What are you trying to achieve? Why are you doing this podcast?
What's your goal?
What's your goal? So many things.
And one of the things that he was so not upset, but he kind of pointed out to us was that the audio. He's like, y'all sounded so echoey. That is not okay. And so now we're very mindful of it. And we're like, okay, let's check the audio first.
Hello Studios.
I know. So shout out to Hello Studios for allowing us to be here.
Echoey from our first Disney episode. But yes, thanks to Ben, we really started, like, we came back together and we were like, okay, let's really think about this seriously, because obviously, like, a podcast is not just a one episode, one time done deal. Like, it's something more important. Like, how are we connecting to our audience? Why do we want to do this? So we got together and we started answering a lot of our brothers, like, very difficult, at the time, very difficult questions, but then it really made us think. So that actually kind of even comes into one of the questions that was submitted by a user, and it was, where did the name Driven Latinas come from? And it was from our brother asking us those tough questions about the logo. And we had, like, yes, if it's going to be a logo, it's going to have, like, a name. So how do we come up with a name? And so we thought about, like, us, what we like to do, like, what our future episodes would look like. And a lot of that entailed us sharing our experiences with our listeners and really thinking, like, okay, well, where did we come from? And so you guys hear that in the first episode that was released was a lot of our background.
And I really want to shout out Laura for this one, because I think she, what do you say it? How do you say it? Hit the nail on the head when she said, driven Latinas.
Yeah.
And then I just said, I love it. I love it. Let's do it.
Yeah, because we had other words. Like, we were thinking, like, what should it be called? And we were like, we're both very driven. Like, we've come so far and we still have a long way to go. Like, because we're so, like, ready to, conquer it all.
Yes.
So we came up with Driven. And then, of course, you look at us, like, see who we are. We're Latinas. And that's kind of what also sparked the idea of, like, let's call it Driven Latinas. And so our brother sent us the amazing logo that you see, and we loved it. We were like, it's amazing. It's so good. And the only contribution that I made, and you guys are going to laugh because it's such a small detail, I just said, under Driven Latinas, it had, like, you can see, like, the underline bar. And I just said, let's add the little arrowhead, like, at the end. And that's what
podcast.
Yeah, the little arrow. And then it's pointing to the podcast. So I just had that idea because it's like driving forward. That's what I kept thinking.
Yes.
And
so if you want to see any of his other work, his Instagram is called Ben Perez, so PRZ.
Oh,
so
yeah,
check him
absolutely.
out.
They have to
He
check
lives
him
in
out.
New York City as a photographer. So he is a driven Latino himself.
That's right. So he knew exactly, like, what we were, like, hoping to accomplish, and he's part of the Driven Latino community. So shout out to him and everything he's done for our podcast, like he continues to do for our podcast. But thank you for the hard questions, Ben, because you made us be a lot more serious about it than just one episode. Now it's a full thing where we're trying to share experiences, and we have so much left to share.
I agree.
We're excited for it.
I love you, Ben.
Love you. Okay, let's go to another question. So these are very like business oriented. So we'll go through those first, and then we have some really fun questions that were also submitted by you all. So we'll hit those too. But one of the other questions that was asked is, why do you all call us Guerreras and Guerreros? So you all may hear that at the very beginning of our episodes. We say, hello, Guerreras and Guerreros. And so the question was, like, why do you call us that? Like, where did that come from? And what does it mean? Because not all of our listeners are Latinos either. So some of them are even wondering, like, what does that even mean?
Well, the translation for guerrera or guerrero is warrior, right? And a warrior fights.
Yes.
And conquers whatever is thrown his way, any challenges. And I just feel like that just is a perfect description of a Latino. We fight, we get dirty. We don't care
Yeah.
to get, we just fight till the end and we don't give up. So I thought that was such a great name.
Yeah, I think so too. Like we had like listed a couple of names and we were like this, that. And then when we came up with like, we came across Guerreras and Guerreros and we're like, heck yes, that like embodies what we are too with Driven, right? It's like the Driven. And then like we're warriors. We're like trying to fight for life, trying to fight for a better life, like a new beginning. Like that is what we do and what we continue to do and what we've seen our mom do. Like, yes. I think that had like a huge contribution. Like when we think of our mom, like we think of like the one word is like guerrera. Like she's a freaking like fighter. She fights. Oh, sorry about that.
She got excited.
I got excited. I was punching the air. I accidentally punched the mic. But yeah, she gets excited for it. She fights for life. And like we also thought about that in our listeners too, right? If they're listening to a podcast called Driven Latinas, then they're more than likely also like fighters on life and trying to succeed and trying to do better for themselves. So we just thought like that was the perfect way to address our listeners.
Yes, I completely 100% agree. And that kind of goes into the next question that somebody asked, like, what inspires you every day? Mm-hmm. And mom, like our mom, as you all know, she was a single mom of 6. And she, even though she worked full time, she always made it to we used to be in the drill team, to all our dances, because Laura and I were dancers together. Mm-hmm. And she was always there in the stands. She would drop us off at practice, pick us up. And now that I'm a mom myself, I appreciate that so much, because now I understand the sacrifice that it takes when you're working full time and you're also trying to make time to be there for your kids' extracurricular activities.
Yeah. I have such a huge appreciation for moms after becoming a mom myself, and even more so to our mom. And all of you all, like our listeners, our family members, anyone who listens to us, like being a mom and going through childbirth, like you all make it look easy. Like I feel like once I had to go through it, I was like, oh my goodness, like our mom had 6 kids, low income family, like single parent. Like how did she do it? Like I'm over here with a partner, like someone that's doing this with me, and just one kid. And I feel like it's a lot to juggle and to, kind of try to take day by day. And then yet here she was doing it like with 6 kids, a single mom, and like thriving, like doing the best that she could, right, with the means that she had. And so thinking of her, like what an inspiration. Like anytime I'm like so tired and like Lily's asking for like a bedtime story or something, my 2-year-old daughter, I'm like, do it. Like, come on. Like, your mom was able to get through so much and you have no excuse. You have no excuse. Like,
yes. When I see a few dishes in the sink, I'm like, what would mom do? She would just scrub them down and,
get them out of the way.
2 minutes,
check them off
just
the list.
It. Yeah.
Yeah. Check them off that list. Yeah. That was a great question. This other one, I want to stick with like also like the fun one. The fun ones, but we got asked a question of what would be your dream vacation? And I thought that was so fun. I'm like, I actually hadn't thought about it. So do you have one?
I kind of have an idea of what you're going to say, but I'll share mine first because I think yours is super cool. Mine is Bora Bora. I just love, the outdoors. I love the ocean. I feel like that would just be so relaxing and it's beautiful. I've seen pictures and videos, and I think that maybe right now I'll manifest that I will go to Bora Bora one day.
Oh, you will. I have no doubt that you will. You say that, and I feel like that would have been like beach. Like I got married in the beach, like with my husband, and I would have loved that before kids. But now with a toddler, I feel like beach makes me nervous because of like the water, and like now just like focusing on like Lily versus like me just enjoying and relaxing the water. So I'm going to change mine from a beach setting, which would have been like mine initially, to Paris. Since I've been little, I've been saying like the Eiffel Tower. And I think that's like very cliche because I know a lot of us have the same like dream is to like go to that type of place. But I feel like I would love to go to Paris, and I would love it to be like brisk in the fall, like a little bit cold, and for me to wear like that long trench coat jacket with my little like hat. I don't know what they're called, but that French little hat. It looks like a beanie. I don't know what they're called, beanies. But wear that and then take a picture with my husband and daughter right in front of the Eiffel Tower. Like that's my now like dream vacation would be visiting Paris, eating a lot of bread. I love carbs, bread and pasta. Oh, it would be amazing. And then I am super jealous too because I know our brother Ben is planning a trip to Paris and I'm just like, so lucky. But it's okay. I'll live through him for now. And then eventually my dream will come through to go to that dream vacation.
So let me tell you all this because y'all might not know this, but Laura used to have the Eiffel Tower, like Paris theme in her bedroom. So that's why I said, I think I know which one you're going to say. But it was all over, so maybe you are manifesting it too, sister.
I always manifested it. Oh, that's true. I had like this little lady. Yes, pink and black. She had a trench coat with a poodle.
Yes.
And it was like a kind of like a cartoon like picture thing. Not a cartoon, but like, I don't know what to call it, like colorful, like a painting.
Let me just stop you right there. She still has the boxes from that theme because even her boxes matched, y'all, in her bedroom growing up.
Right.
And she still has those boxes. And every time I see them, I think of Paris because that was her.
That was my vibe. Yeah, since I was in high school. Okay, so this dream vacation is actually a lot longer than I thought it was, like in my head. So I have been manifesting it. So, hopefully soon it'll happen. But yeah, it's a great question. Thank you for asking that because it makes us continue to dream and put it out there so that we can do it. Do you have a question?
Well, one of the ones that a lot of people keep asking is like, what's your spirit animal? Like what? And I'm it makes me think. I'm like, well, I think that a cheetah would probably be my spirit animal because they're fierce, fast, and they're always on the prowl for what's coming next. So
driven. That is such a good response. So. Oh my goodness, I'm stumped with that one. Like, what would my spirit animal be? I wish I could ask my friends this, like, and close people that know me, like, what do you all think my dream animal would be? Because I am a little bit stumped on it. I'm going to say that it would be a freaking butterfly because you can put me...
that's an insect. Oh my goodness.
Oh my God.
Can we edit that part out, please?
Let's edit that out. You're right, though.
I'm just kidding.
No. Okay, I'm going to change it for the person that submitted it because I can't think of an animal. I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to be an insect, okay? I just feel like you put me in any little setting with people, and you all know, if you know me, that this is so true. Like, I will...
camouflage in or adapt.
Yeah, I will. And one of the reasons why I'm going to Japan, right? I just feel like I will adapt quickly. You will be comfortable with me. You can feel like you can share your life story. I'll share my life story and we'll just bond. We'll have some drinks and then I'll move on to another group. And then I will also be a social butterfly over there. So I feel like I would be an insect versus an animal. I will be a butterfly. And I love how colorful they are. And like, look at us. Like we have like the most colorful getup like right now. Like I'm wearing a yellow, like,
I thought she was going to say the glow up was real.
Oh, for sure. The glow up is real too. But no, that like the butterfly. And think about it like metaphorically, like we were like freaking caterpillars. And
that's what I said. We morphed. So definitely the glow up was real.
Yeah, the glow up was real with all the colors and all of the beautifulness that comes with it and us spreading our wings.
Yes.
So pretty. Okay, I'll say an insect.
I know. And another question that I think our brother even asked is like, who's your targeted audience? And I know that people have had that question too. Because they sometimes say, well, your content is just kind of scattered all over the place. Like, we've seen like Hispanic heritage stories like the Frida Kahlo. And then, so what's really like who's really your targeted audience? But there is some sense to our madness.
Yeah, there is. So we do have a strategy behind it, although you all may feel like it's kind of all over the place. If you think about this from a linear standpoint, we do we have started our episode from episode 1 with our background, and then we've done like an episode of Disney, and then we did another episode on college life. So I understand the feedback. Like, thank you for the feedback. It's true. It does seem like it's all over the place, but as my sister said, there is a method to the madness. We'd have a linear timeline, so we're like talking about our lives, but in between those episodes, we sprinkle in current events. So that's why in between like our very first episode where we talk about our background and our mom, and then you have another like the Disney planning, that's us sprinkling in a current event, and then we go back to our story. And then we'll sprinkle on another like current event, and then we'll go back to our story. So you'll see that throughout as far as like the strategy. Our targeted audience, honestly, we've also thought about this because we are so inclusive that it has been hard for us to like narrow it down specifically to someone. So I don't want to say like we have a very specific audience, but obviously like we are Latinas. When we do these episodes, we think like we're talking to our siblings or our little cousins, and like what advice would we have wanted to have when we were younger. And so we think about that a lot in the way that we tailor our messages and what we say. But that's not to say that Latinos are our only targeted audience. We know that we have so many different listeners, and we want to be as inclusive as possible to all. But really, like, we do think about like talking to our siblings.
Absolutely. We want to be that mentor that we didn't have growing up, because, you know,
We're
our
first
mom was
generation.
still learning. My mom was on survival mode, trying to provide for us, and we didn't have that mentor to guide us. And I know that a lot of families, especially families who are very well off, have that support within their family. Like, we had to find it. So that's why we, you know, like she said, we tailor it to like as if we were speaking to our little sister or our little brother.
Our little cousins, like, you know, anyone that's like maybe 10 years younger than we are, and what would we have wanted to know? Because we've kind of had to figure it out on our own. And some have been through like trial and error, like mistakes. And then it's like, oh, okay, well, you shouldn't have done it that way. So we try to avoid you all from making mistakes. But at the same time, to our listeners that may be closer to our age, then let's talk about current things that we're doing. And let's talk about like moving across the world, or like doing, you know, different things that may be more relevant to them. So we're trying to hit a different targeted audience and different demographics. And it's only because we want to be more inclusive than just like narrowing it down to one. And also, like, even if it's like 10 years down the line from someone, or we have a very young listener, for example, like your daughter who loves our podcast and is our number one, then they have something to look forward to even later. Like, dream big. Like, look at, you know, you just passed like your principalship exam, and that's a huge deal. And so, yes, like, little Latina, like, maybe you're a teenager now, but you can aspire still to continue to do things, even if it's way down the road.
I agree. I love that. Yeah. This one really does guide to the following question my brother asked us, like, what is your end goal? Like, what is your end goal by creating this podcast? And so I think we both had the same vision and goal, which was, of course, to inspire and also help other people that don't have the means maybe within their family to do so, but we also want to include our personal experiences so they can actually in our story, so they can see that
it's possible.
It's possible. Like, even it doesn't matter where you come from, you know, you can still overcome all your challenges.
Yeah. And it's like, and we're still going. It's not like this is our end goals, like both where you are in life and where I am in life. It's not the end. So it's ongoing. Like, exactly. It's going to keep ongoing, and like, dream big. Like, I think and I've talked about this in our vision board episode, like a lot of times the problem with adults is that they don't dream big enough. So they reach their goal, but then that's it. It's like, keep dreaming and keep striving for like that impossible thing that you're just like, that's never going to happen. Like, there's just no way. It's like, like, you guys know where we came from our first episode. And like, for me, if you told me like a 10-year-old little Latina girl that she was going to be moving to Japan as part of her company, like, I would have been like, what? Like, how is that even, like, no, like, that, I can't do that. But like, now I am. And so I want to know, we want all the other like younger generations to know, like, you can do it. Like, don't put the negative thoughts in your head like it's never going to happen. Like, we're so resilient.
Yes, get out of your own way. In other
Get
words.
out of your own. I know this is like, people say this all the time, but it's the truth. Like, you're your worst enemy. Like, you thinking that you can't do it is like the worst thing that you can do. So we hope that by seeing us and where we come from, which maybe like your beginnings weren't as rough, or maybe they were rougher, but you know, you can overcome. And I think that's a huge message that we have. And that's the end goal of our podcast, like of our episodes and our podcast. It's like inspiring you to do more and to dream big and know that it's possible, because we're the prime example and we're still not done.
Absolutely. And I'm a huge fan of Shark Tank, as is Laura. And I always think of that quote from Mark Cuban where he says, like, you'll get 1,000,000 no's, but all you need is one yes. And I always say that to my little sister. I'm like, okay, so if that happened, that's one no, but you still have, you know, 1,000,000 no's to go until you get that one yes. And that yes is the only one you need.
And I love that she's saying that, because even when I interviewed for the Japan thing in December, I remember going to her and saying, like, am I crazy? Like, am I interviewing for something that is like, save the heartache, sister. Just, you know, like save your heart, and, you know, don't even apply and don't even interview. I was telling myself, I'm like, should I just not even apply? Like, is this so far-fetched? And she was like, no. And she told me that quote. And it's like, who cares? Even if it is a no, like, who cares? You gave it a shot. Like, one of my favorite places is Alexander Hamilton, and you know that song of like taking your shot. Like, yes, take your shots. And that's the thing that we both do. I think we're so like fearless when it comes to like being rejected. It's like, who cares? Like, if I'm rejected, oh well, I tried. But the thing is that I tried.
Exactly.
And so,
and I didn't know that a lot of people weren't like that. I just assumed like everyone's trying to strive for something, but
because of our mom.
I realized like even my husband's like, nah, I'm not gonna ask. Nah, I'm not gonna ask. Or like, and then it shocks me. I'm like, oh, or like I hear people like, or even friends like, nah, I do really want this, but you know, I just,
coworkers.
No, it's embarrassing if they say, or they send you back, and I'm like, what?
What? Just
like, no, ask. And my little niece told me that recently. She's like, oh, I really look up to you and how much like you're not afraid to hear a no. And I told her that quote again, and I'm like, who cares? Like, you just need that one yes. And she's like, yeah, I need to be more like that. Like, you inspire me to be more like that. And I love her so much. So
I think it's because people don't like rejection. I think that's what it is. Like, I've thought about it a lot too, because I also used, like, going into the corporate world, I used to think like everyone was over here like trying a lot of times, and then I found out like some people, like even for job interviews, it's like, oh, I'm not even gonna apply because I don't meet like 100% of the qualifications. Especially females do that. And I'm like, but you meet like 95% of it. Like, you don't get like one little check and you're like putting yourself down. Like, try. Like, just try and see what's gonna happen. And it's amazing to me that we have this. I really think we learned it from mom. Like, her just like trying. I remember her, you know, going, like waiting in the car, or like with our older sister. We're not alone, by the way. She's not like leaving us in the car by herself, but like waiting for her for an interview. And she tried so many things as long as she could keep like a consistent job. Like, that's what was important to her, to put food on the table versus like, you know, not having anything at all. Like, she was going to give it her best shot. But yes, I think it is a lot. It goes back a lot to how we were raised. One of my mom's favorite quotes is, que no se te cierre el mundo.
Oh, yes.
That is like
I hear that
one of the biggest things she's always said. Like, I don't know how to translate it.
Like, if there's a will, there's a way. You got to figure out that way.
Yeah, but it like, literally it's translated
the
to
literal
like,
term.
Don't let the world close itself.
Close down on you.
Close down on you. Like, in other words, there's a world of possibilities. I think that's the best way to say it. There's a world of possibilities. Like, don't let the world close within itself. Like, there's so much options that you got to keep trying until you find the way. Because especially with limited resources, you'll find out, like, you know, one thing's not going to happen, and then there's one other thing that will. Like, I remember my husband one time, he's like, oh, the toaster broke. We can't toast. And I was like, you know, you could just, like, put it on a pan and a skillet. And, like, it's because we're used to that mode of, like, if you can't do it this way, let's try this way. So it helps us keep going.
All right, friends. So I think this answers a lot of your questions. So we appreciate you. We love you. And again, keep sending those in. And remember, our Instagram is at Driven Latinas. So make sure you send us even more questions that you want us to answer. We really wanted to do this one so that way you can see our faces, because I know a lot of people say we look alike. But I hope that now you got to know I'm Alex.
And I'm Laura, and you can hear our voice differences too.
And remember, somos hermanas.
And together we are Driven Latinas.